everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Startuprad.io, your podcast show with startup news and interviews from Germany.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is again Startuprad.io with the last startup news before our summer break. Of course, we are three again. There's the lady. Hey, Margaret.
Hey.
And of course, there's Christian from New York again as well.
Yes, New York represent. Hello.
Awesome. Guys, this is, as we usually do it at Startuprad.io, our last news wrap up before the summer break, just for the simple reason it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time out of your monthly schedule every time. So we usually do July and August, and then we will be back at some time in September. But nonetheless, let's get started here. I do have some housekeeping for you guys. We, meaning I, have a new interview online with Dr. Yasin Hankia. He's a former management consultant with McKinsey, former co-founder of one of the first robo-advisors in Germany called Wamo, also located here in Frankfurt. And he is the co-host of the FinTech meetup in and around Frankfurt, as well as co-founder of SafeDroid. SafeDroid, on the other hand, is an app which helps its users with an AI to save money. He and the company are looking to close a Series A round towards the end of the year. You'll find more on www.startuprad.io or in the show notes here. Disclaimer, if you are listening to this on YouTube, as more and more people do right now, go to www.startuprad.io and then search for Startup News June. Guys, what did you find?
Hi there, Bjorn. Sorry. The things that we're looking at is that the German newspaper Welt am Sonntag published a research report that Brexit, no big surprise, will generate about 5,000 new jobs in Frankfurt. So that means that our hometown right now is going to be the number one profiteer, you can call it that, from Brexit, according to one study, which we have from Focus magazine. And if you're looking for the direct source on that, the link is in the show notes. Let's see if fintechs will follow. But honestly, so far, the turbulent waters on the other side of the channel are only benefiting the financial community here, and I would assume that's going to be fintech community too.
Then we have more and more news about the hub Frankfurt Rhein-Main. The Africa-focused fintech Avamo raised 2 million euros. This is great since we talked to them at a very early stage in German in February 2015. At this time, they were still called BCB, Biometric Credit Bureau. The cool thing is they provided software and hardware to enable a micro-lending agency, something like one person in a hut, to have all digital accounting. They offer tablet, a software and fingerprint scanners to make the agency faster, and in doing so, the credit flow as well. I do remember from the interview, they showed us the pictures of the hut, and there was one big paper, which is basically the accounting for a month. And then they just add 12 papers and they have a balance sheet. And now it goes much faster. And I do remember with the fingerprinter, I was joking if they do 1 or 2 fingers. And then they told me in developing countries, they have to do all 10 fingers because there's an incentive when a farmer cannot pay back the debt that they actually do cut off the respective finger in order just to be able to get another credit, which I found pretty tough. Nonetheless, if you are able to understand German, just go there.
I have to interject here. And I honestly think that might be a very good incentive, for other parts of the industry. I don't know. What do you guys think?
You are mean. The legal tech company Firma.de raised a 6-digit amount as seed investment, reports Gründerszene. This is just a website designed to make it easy for an entrepreneur to set up their legal entity. And IPO and food are the big topics on this news podcast. Today is the 27th of June, and of course it's hot and warm and humid here in Frankfurt, around 30 degrees Celsius. Margaret, how much is this in Fahrenheit?
Of course, you would catch me out. I don't know.
I assume somewhere in
It's
the 90s.
32 plus 5/9. So, yeah. 5/9 of
Okay,
the...
just do the math.
Yeah, just saying.
Okay,
No, it's
guys,
okay. So 30 degree is about 86, 88.
Yeah, I was pretty good, close with the 90s. Nonetheless, today is the 27th of June, and also today, Frankfurt-based pizza and pasta juggernaut Vapiano has successfully IPO'd. Congratulations to that. Shares were offered for 23 euros, and during the first trading day, were hovering around that level. They raised 185 million euros, which, I did the math here already, is 207 million US dollars in the process, of which 85 millions will go to Fabiano itself for expansion.
2 days ago, I was at the Vapiano here in New York. There's one close to Union Square. And I mean, the interesting thing is that here, the whole concept, for those who are probably not familiar with it, because it's mostly self-served and you get your pasta really fresh and you get your pizza really fresh. And here it's actually at the lower end of the price range, and it's cheaper than to go to have a whole pizza pie at an Italian place or at a sit down restaurant kind of place. But I'm just very surprised that they have this kind of success in Germany, because Italian restaurants have been big in Germany for a long time. Yeah, so it's just for me curious that the Germans would go, as their home market, would go for a company that basically offers them the same that they can get in other restaurants as well, and usually with the disadvantage that people don't get the food at the same time.
Yeah, maybe just because they did the marketing right. Their target customer is usually, from what I see here in Frankfurt in Vapianos. This is, by the way, also where it originally started. So when you go there, the people are between, let's say, 18 and 35, 40. And this is usually people that go there during the lunch break, and it's also pretty busy during shopping time on the weekends. So I think they made the right combination of lifestyle surrounding choice and fresh food with low calories. There's a follow, and now we already entered the company section. There's a follow-up on earlier news wrap-ups. In March 2015, we did report Redcoon, the online subsidiary of German electronics retail giant Media-Saturn. Let's say the Radio Shack
let's say
of
the
Germany.
best. Let's jump in there. Let's say it's the Best Buy, because Radio Shack is no longer with us. But Media-Saturn is healthy.
Yeah, I don't mind. It's the Best Buy. I don't care. And it was going for 2 billion in revenue in 2015. Now we learned that Media-Saturn is doing everything to undo the 2011 purchase of this online-only store. Reportedly, Media-Saturn paid 125 million euros in 2011, and now they filed a lawsuit for damages and want to reverse the whole transaction. It is almost impossible to reverse this transaction after 6 years and several restructurings, but it appears Media-Saturn wants to get money out of it, maybe for its own separation from the larger retail group Metro. The story broke with Lebensmittelzeitung.
Nice.
And now we would need Margaret, but apparently we lost her again.
Let me take over that part until probably she's coming back while we're talking about it. So we've already been talking about Vapiano and food there. So food, IPOs, and delivery of food are what seems to be the big topics of our podcast episode this time. So, and also in the global startup world in general, because there's more. Of course, we always need a Rocket Internet Corner in our show. And today, this Rocket Internet Corner can circle around the fact that in 3 days after us recording this, their unicorn Delivery Hero will have their IPO, or at least let's say the IPO is expected. They target nearly 1 billion euro in their IPO, which would mean that they would be valued at 4.4 billion euro at this stage. Well, a bit less than $5 billion, that is. Oh yeah, well, and also Bloomberg reported about this. They also have a video with a discussion on many of the well-known startups in the area or in that field, like Instacart. And this is in the show notes, this Bloomberg article. For example, also the fact that Blue Apron is on the way to an IPO for actually a lower valuation, which is interesting given their market power here in the US. So they seem to aim at a valuation of 3.2 billion. They are going for around 500 million US dollars in their listing at the stock exchange.
What I actually found extremely interesting is how closely this all is related. For example, we'll soon talk about the Whole Foods deal. We just talked about the IPO of Delivery Hero. Then there's HelloFresh. So there seems to be really something brewing in the global market, right?
It seems like it. And yeah, we will get to that later and some of the thoughts later, because also it has to do with other areas, with other startup areas and other areas where like engineering is changing or that are heavily being disrupted. Yeah, and so I mean, just to give you a bigger picture, we also have another article in the show notes where that basically analyzes this question of whether this IPO is the make or break moment for Delivery Hero in their race against Uber and Amazon to become really, really big. And yeah, like you said, it's a real big trend. In Germany, we also have, for example, the retail chain Rewe, like probably the closest thing Germany has to Whole Foods, not with that much prepared food, but a supermarket chain whose groceries are at the higher end of the spectrum, I would say. They have like really fresh and nice stuff. They also now consider themselves to be a platform that wants to deliver stuff, and let's see how they are holding up against Amazon Fresh and other players who are just purely online. Yeah, and just on a side note,
getting back to Rewe, because they do it right now here in Frankfurt. They're like massive. When I walk around, like within 5 minutes walking, there are 2 of their stores. When I drive by car, within 15 minutes, there are like 4, 5 more stores, including 2 really, really big ones where you can shop from like 8 a.m. till midnight, from Monday till Saturday, which is pretty big in Germany. And they're also doing delivery with their online shop. Nonetheless, what I want to get to is related. Amazon Fresh in Germany is expected to generate 11 million revenues in 2017. 90 million are forecasted for 2020, writes the blog NGIN.
Yeah, which is not that much. I mean, honestly, 11 million euro in revenue. It's a start. But yeah, definitely very small numbers.
And you got to see how many groceries you got to sell for 11 million. And you also always have to transport them around. Nonetheless, the elephant in the room, the takeover of Whole Foods by Amazon. Just one article, a great analysis by the Washington Post. Keep in mind, the WAPO is owned by Jeff Bezos, the founder and CEO of Amazon. Drone delivery, kale, and 5 more things we might see at an Amazon-owned Whole Foods. Like for number 1, no more lines. With Amazon Go app, customers can just walk out of the store. Delivery by drone. Amazon integration for everything like Amazon Dash, Alexa ordering by smart appliances like the fridge and so on. Lower prices. And Amazon-owned restaurants. They already do restaurant delivery like the full circle. We're going back to the Delivery Hero IPO. As you can see, Amazon is bringing a new dimension to all of this. Now, one does not only need to be a platform to sell food. The CEOs need to think of drones and other fancy toys as well. There's also a related article, why Amazon's acquisition of Whole Foods matter for startup land. This is by Thomas Tungus. Sorry if I butchered the name, who is a VC at Redpoint. He writes, the most interesting part of this acquisition is that it marks the current hypothesis of technology's impact on the broader economy. Startups have been acquired before by household names, but now this is a game changer. Amazon's acquisition of Whole Foods could be the first of several major transactions in which leading technology companies redefine traditional industries by leveraging their near infinite balance sheet and injecting rapid advancing technologies or unique distribution that incumbents simply can't match. This sounds like he is expecting a lot from them.
To give you some American perspective on this as well, I was just like a couple of weeks ago, I was at the new Amazon store. There's now a physical Amazon store here in New York at Columbus Circle, where they mostly sell books and their gadgets, so the whole Echo and Kindle family thing. And I think they probably have about 2,000, 3,000 book titles. It's not much. They only present it with their covers. It's a nice shop. They have like nice shelves with things like books that Kindle readers finished in less than 3 days and got a review of 4 stars and better or something like that. And also, if you're a Prime customer, you can just you get the online price for the books, which in the US, because there's no fixed book prices, makes a huge difference. And it was really interesting to see how they put their feet in the water on these ones. And I mean, with the 5 things that you just said, how it can change retail for good. It's definitely interesting that Amazon wants to be in that space. I think they consider themselves as being a competitor to Walmart now, and definitely with that, it's definitely possible. And what I was hinting at before is that what definitely will be interesting is once the whole market for self-driving cars is picking up, this will probably also change retail for forever, because who needs a physical retail space then anymore? Because you could just have like little trucks driving around all the time automatically that bring the food to the people, and you don't need the.
Wasn't Amazon actually reported to have like a patent, and they want to have something like an airship, like a Zeppelin, and fly the drones from there? So basically you don't have anything fixed to the ground, but it's flying around the warehouse.
It could also be, but I mean, there's, especially for a big country like the US, in the more rural parts of the country, this can probably be an interesting thing. And retail right now is in the US already a industry that is heavily suffering. They lose a lot of jobs right now, and I think the whole market is like in huge turbulences anyway. Yeah.
Well, I think that is certainly a possibility, right? But I think that there are also other questions about how the food chain is going to survive. I mean, one of my concerns watching this happen in the U.S., for example, is that, to Jorn's point about even like East Berlin, people who live in the countryside are not going to be able to afford really to order like grocery store food from Amazon unless they do something on prices. I think that what they're doing is smart. I think that this is really interesting. What I also remark on, is like you guys have been talking about how often we end up talking about things like food and food delivery. But I think that these are going to become really, really pressing issues. And also, I mean, let's just be honest, in a planet or even a country that's more polluted, how are those maybe, could those things help save a country? Could they add to problems that are already existent? I mean, I don't think that we have really seen the impact of this. I think we're watching the market grow and all these different spin-offs happen. But, on one level, it just makes me a little uneasy because it's not just all about pizza delivery. I mean, this is a food chain. This is how countries operate. This is how communities make sure they go forward. So, what I'm really curious about is, certainly from like more fintechy perspective is who's the regulator here? You know what I'm saying? I mean, who is keeping track of all this new and it's all exciting and it's all really super and cool, but who is watching this, and are we going to create literally food deserts in our delivery, food chains?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Right now, a lot of it will be speculation, and yeah, and like you said, some things will work, some things won't work. If we look a bit more at the German market, we definitely see that the German customers, in terms of groceries, or when it comes to groceries, are very price sensitive. They are not willing to pay more money, and yeah,
Well, I
so
mean, to your
probably let
point,
me move
yeah.
on a bit with. Sorry,
Yeah, I mean, to
no,
be
go
point
ahead.
though, I mean, just like Riva, I mean, like my perspective of Riva is nowhere close to like Whole Foods. They offer very cheap, and I don't mean that in bad quality, very inexpensive but good quality generics, which are also in all of the other grocery stores. I mean, to your point, I think that a Whole Foods kind of environment would never really take off in Germany to the extent that it has in the
Yeah,
U.S. because people are so price sensitive here. And while they like nice things and eating out and all the rest, like everybody else, I think basic staples that people, pay lots of money for in these upscale grocery stores are on the way out. So it'll be interesting to see how that hits Germany.
yeah,
Seriously, I'm really curious to see.
yeah, yeah. Moving on from that, I got three more news about other companies as well. So there is Contorion, an online marketplace for tools, like everything from a hammer to a cement mixer, so really big. After only 3 years, they are acquired by the established SME Hoffmann SE for 130 million euros. Story from Manager magazine here in Germany. Hoffmann SE had a revenue in 2016 of 1.1 billion euros, so an established player in the market. The only downside is that the three founders, two of them former McKinsey consultants and the former manager of CityDeal, they only sorry, the only sorry, I can't read no, the thing is, that's why I'm laughing. The thing is, when you type something in the document right now, then always the whole flag with Jörn Meininger is writing something here comes up. And so I can't read the word I'm about to say. It's really funny. Okay. So the only downside to it is that the three founders, two of them former McKinsey consultants and the former manager of CityDeal, they only own 14% of the company at the time of the exit. And we got some more in-depth analysis about that as well. Then there is BlackRock investing 30 million euro in Munich-based robo-advisor Scalable Capital. A report from Gründerszene, and the established insurer DBK invests 10 million euro for a 10% stake in the insurtech Autonova, which means they are now being valued at 100 million euro. Moving
Wow.
on to BMW.
And here I may just add, we have agreed to an interview of Autonova. They requested an interview with us. So there will be at least a German interview forthcoming, let's say in fall. I also tried to make them do an English interview. Let's see if it
Cool.
works out.
Well, coming back to this mobility issue, we're beyond pizza here, but we also found an interesting story about the venture capital arm of BMW, which is iVentures. We found it in Manager magazine. They did some cool digging and found out where the venture arm of BMW is investing. And you can find the link in our show notes. But just to give you a little bit of a preview, number one is in e-mobility. Two is in mobility services, and that includes apps like Scoop and Move It, even though the app provides public mass transportation information. And also, take a look at RideCell, the car and ride-sharing platform, as well as Just Park, Bus.com, and the car rental via app in the US-based Skirt. They are also looking at things like online communities, which include Rever for motorcyclists or Life 360, which offer real-time tracking of the location of all participating family members. I could see where that would be kind of cool. Obviously, these guys are not overlooking AI and security, and they are looking at startups like ZenDrive or Nauto, which is an AI that can assist drivers by analyzing video camera feed. And then they're also looking at new methods of production and manufacturing. This includes desktop metal, which prints 3D metal parts, and carbon, which wants to accelerate 3D printing with photochemistry. The magazine also reports that BMW's venture arm only invests in 15 out of every 1,000 firms who contact them. So, number one, it's an interesting mix. Number two, look at where they are also focusing. So this is a very, very interesting time. And we would encourage you to come back to the show notes. We've got all sorts of nice links back to these companies as well.
Yeah, and in that regard, you can really say that a lot of the German car manufacturers, the premium car manufacturers, really did their homework nowadays, and you can see how they become more innovative, how they try out new things. Mercedes long while ago already started with Car2Go, and they're really thinking about new stuff, and there's a lot of movement in that market as well. And I think the BMW iVentures just speaks to that as well.
Competitions and events. Before we get together again, there will be Frankfurt School Innovation Contest, MindTech Startup Summit. We provide you the URL. It's www.mindtech-startup-summit.com, and they are looking for innovative business plans in fintech, regtech, lawtech, and few others. Open to Frankfurt School alumni and students. Cash prizes starting at 4,000 euros for the first place. And the Startup Safari is coming to Frankfurt Rhine-Main on the 27th of September. It's startup-safari.com/events/startup-safari-Frankfurt-Rhein-Main. Just check out www.startuprad.io. And the sad news, summer break is coming. This was the last news wrap up before the summer break. We do have enough material to keep you listening during the hot summer month, but they are already recorded. We will get together again towards the end of September and provide you with news wrap ups again. Looking forward to it, and happy 4th of July to our US listeners, because approximately 50% of our listeners are now from the US. And before I tell you stay ahead of the curve, I did find something really, really interesting, because there's an article by Christie's. And you say, what, Christie's? And it was very fascinating, because there was a specialist about marketing talking about what Napoleon's hat can tell us about the power of branding. It's what Napoleon's hat tells us about the power of branding. I found it totally fascinating. And of course, they stay ahead of the curve. Just one quote: what Martin Luther did to the Catholic Church needs to be done to business gurus. Guys, enjoy it. Looking forward to the summer. Of course, it will be a lot of work for all of us. I still have to do lots and lots of editing, and nonetheless, you'll get approximately every other week something online from us. We've been to several events, we did several interviews, and we have some cool stuff coming up in the fall.
Sounds about right.
Famous last words, guys?
Sounds about right to me.
Well, happy summer.
No last words.
Happy summer, all of you in the United States.
Let's see again. Let's meet each other again soon.
Happy trails.
Onwards and upwards. See you.
Awesome. Thank you. And remember, sharing is caring. Thank you. Bye-bye.